Hello and welcome to another edition of the Scoutcast from Fantasy Football Scout. My name is Joe.
My name is Seb.
And my name is Andy.
Seb, what is coming up on the show?
So we have a slightly more chill one this week. We will, of course, have a little recap of Gameweek 20. Is that the one that just went? Maybe 19 as well, because I did hilariously badly.
It was Gameweek 18 was the last one I did, the last Scoutcast.
Oh, goodness.
Gameweek 19, the last one you did, yeah.
Yeah. Of course, yeah. We're 20 now, aren't we? 21 next. See? Good, I know exactly what I'm talking about. That's why we're doing a chill one, because it's a crazy time of year, and we're going to provide a little bit of an antithesis to that, a little bit of the opposite vibe. A little more relaxed than usual, and we've got some New Year's resolutions for you. Of course, as well, we've got lots of double game weeks to arrange and all of that. So rather than trying to guess too much on that, we'll talk a little more generally. We will, of course, though, look at the next four fixtures. We have Alex's team, and we're going to try something new a little bit later with some quick fire questions, which I will get around to near the end of the pod.
Indeed. Yes, so before we move on, just want to thank those that have joined us already, the early birds in the live chat. We will be needing your questions much later. So don't fire questions now, but later in the show, when Seb gives the nod, you ask us some questions, or we're going to answer them as quickly as we can. But thank you so much to Diraj, Multi-Level, Valdis, FPL Soccer Crazy, AMAC, Paul H, Seb, that's you. Hang on, Seb. Seb's in the chat as well. Daniel, Anchor, Nuclear Atoms, Liam, Dylan, Baron, Josh, Tim Matthews, Evil Fish, and Baron Nishi, and many more. Thanks so much for joining us. Well over 200 of you who are sparing some of your time between Christmas and New Year. But only 32 likes, so just smash and pummel that like button and to give us all those lovely likes. So yeah, let's have a look at Game Week 20 recap. So we've still got some matches to go, or a match to go, is it? I'm losing track of the postponements, but I think Manchester United Burnley is still on tonight. So this is pre that. So far, let's put your team up first, Seb. You, it's a man after my own heart. Your moves this week, absolutely nothing. So honestly,
they went so badly before. I just noped out of it.
No, I really like that. So we've got your team up on the screen for the benefit of those listening on the podcast. You've got 55 points. So do you want to just quickly run through your team, your highs and lows?
Sure. I do think it's important to touch on last week first, just because I don't want to get away with it because we didn't stream. I got 27 points in Game Week 19. Captain Ronaldo for nothing. Lost about 15 points just by doing Lacazette to Ronaldo. I also did Salah to Son, so that one kind of came off, although lucky this week. But yeah, that didn't go well at all. And it took me from about 35k or something to like a 90k. So pretty bad, that one. Other people were free hitting and getting 70s as well. I think Andy got about 400 by doing nothing. But a bit better this week. I'm straight back to 50k, which is where I've been for ages. So that's about right. Wiping out that Cancelo captain. My team is Edison in goal with 9 points. He made saves. He got bonus, which is a bit nuts. Alexander-Arnold, Cancelo, James, Dallo still to play, and Ben Davies at the back. After me and Lynn went for him as a differential, he's done nothing since. Son in the midfield with the vice captain. Jota with the captain. Obviously, nothing came of that. But I think, given I don't have Salah, I do have Ronaldo, I do have Son, but I thought Jota was the best captain. He's got the best per 90s. He had arguably a better fixture than, say, Burnley. And I don't think, he didn't do that much in the match, but Salah was stupidly unlucky not to return. So I don't mind backing that fixture, and I got away with not having Salah. I do have Foden and Bowen, who's where most of my points came from, and I've got Ronaldo still to play tonight.
Yes, indeed. So I'm the complete opposite. So you did nothing, and I did almost everything. Everything you can possibly do in a game week. So Christmas for me has been a real nightmare before we show my team. I've all the players I got in were gradually not having games. That's happened to a lot of us, but it happened particularly poorly with my team. And so a lot of the weeks I was having, say, 7, 8 players. And then so I was having to I've taken 5 hits over Christmas so far, just simply to get near an 11, and not even an 11. And even then, it wasn't even a credible one. So looking back, I probably would have been better just to do absolutely nothing. Whatever my team was in game week 18, just stick with it. Even with the captaincy still on Salah, I would have been probably the same. But of course you don't do that. It's Christmas, you've got time on your hands, you've had a bit to drink, and you start making moves. So this is my team. You see there's a few things of note here. So for those listening on the podcast, it says the words free hit played. Basically, after 2 8-point hits in a row, I was looking at having to take another 8 points just to get 10 players out. And I still wasn't happy with it. I still had no Salah. I still didn't have a Son. I just didn't have anyone I wanted to captain. And that was with spending hits. So a minus 12 could have got me, say, Son as a credible captain. It's just the way my team structure was. All of the price points were just out the window because I was only left with players it was just too cheap, really. And I didn't have a sort of a cash cow. Which is really annoying. So I just thought, right, I've had enough of this. I'm looking at a minus 12 here, and I just need to steady the ship. I've gone from somewhere around 70k, and I was down to 170k last week. And with those hits, even if they came off, I was probably looking at maybe another 50 to 60k rank drop. And then once you start moving down, so I just wanted to move up a bit, steady the ship, just get this free hit played. So highs and lows of that. So I've gone up to 112k. So I've steadied the ship a bit. I've got De Gea to play. Hopefully he wasn't spotted at the hotel just before we came on air. Then he suddenly was spotted on the hotel. So make of that what you will. So I got in, say, the likes of Son, King, Antonio, all got me extra points. I kept Foden. I didn't want to move him. And it was great to get Son in. He was like a credible one. The minuses, however, are Salah. I got in and captained. And just to show how good and bad the luck is with Salah owners or Salah sellers, this was his first ever 0 in 177 performances. And it was the third time that he's got less than 2 points, or 2 points or less. So he's got 3 points before, or he's got an assist, or bonus, whatever. He's got something. So that's how rare this was for Salah. And it happened to be the week that I really, really needed him. So this green arrow could have been, say it was a goal, say that penalty had gone in. But that's the story of FPL, isn't it? Say this happened, you do bail. Say that's just the way it is. So am I happy I played the free hit? Yes, because my team was in a dire straits. You both of you got similar scores. I wouldn't have got. I'd have been in early 30s again, and no, not to be good. So yeah, that's me. I think I've said enough about that.
Are you happy with the team you're returning to after the free hit? Is it like suitable for what's coming up?
Well, it will come, as we used to say in the New Year resolutions. I think I've been happy. I was happy with my team earlier, and then all the postponements came. And so what I've been doing, I've been taking out players that pretty much the week next I want back in. So this way, whatever I've got left in game week 19 is going into game week 21. I'll have a free transfer. If it's a double game week and it's huge, don't mind, and it's a player I want for the long term, I'll take a hit, just one, because that's what I'm keeping to a minimum. But we'll come to that in a bit later. But in essence, as long as I can get something credible out, and even if I can't, I don't care now because I'm sick of making moves, and it's just getting worse and worse. It's like when you pick a stitch on it's like falling apart on a shirt or something. You just keep, and then suddenly you've got no shirt because you just got loads of just unravelled. And so yeah, Andy, let's move on to your team.
Yes, please.
Yes. Yes, you got 53. For the benefit of those listening to the podcast version, who have you got?
I made two moves this week. I took out Ramsdale and brought Lloris in because it was between him and De Gea, and I thought Lloris has so many fixtures to play. I was quite happy to have him in there. And I also took out Smith Rowe for Bowen. So I was very, very happy with that move. Obviously paid off straight away, so that was for a hit as well. So I got Lloris, Rudiger, James, Cancelo, and Alexander-Arnold. And I tell you what, I am fed up of owning double Chelsea defence. So one of those is definitely going to be going now because obviously James is injured, so that makes my decision a little bit easier. Bernardo Silva, I mean, he's practically a defensive midfielder now. Jota, Son is captain, and then Bowen as well. I got rid of Salah 2 weeks ago, and obviously that's paid off. I was shocked by the fact he did nothing this week and even missed a penalty. And then Antonio and King up top. So I'm on 53. Christmas has been very kind to me. I've been very, very lucky. I'm up to about 50k now. So considering after captaining Havertz in game week 9, I've been trying to climb back from 500k. I'm very happy to be where I am at the moment. Ronaldo captain shouldn't hurt me too much if he bangs tonight, but we'll see what happens. But yeah, no, very happy to be back in the top 100k as it is. And I got players on my bench that potentially going to be doubling. Got a few little plans, but we'll see what happens.
Yes, indeed.
Can you share those plans, please? Because someone's 2 points ahead of you.
Yeah, I know.
Well, maybe in our team reveals at the end, we'll get more of those plans. Let's move on to New Year's resolutions, I think. So this is more chatty, less statty. So I'll just put a picture of our lovely faces up instead. So no stats, no pictures, just us. And also the community. So we've been asking the community about their New Year's resolutions in FPL, and I know Seb is not keen on New Year's resolutions as such, but humbug. But it's a good way to frame the fact of just sort of looking back on the season so far and what you might want to change going forward, or what not necessarily one specific mistake, but just something around FPL that perhaps needs changing. A resolution. So here's some of the communities. Dino, I never check live rank or overall rank. I just compete with my friends in my mini leagues. But should my New Year's resolution to be to start being wary of overall rank and to check it, or should I stay away? It seems it can be a crutch also. I'm not sure which type of crutch he's talking about. But Chelsea Monster Sound, don't go into meltdown when my captain blanks. That's his. That's his New Year's resolution. He's not going to go into a meltdown over FPL decisions, which are out of his control ultimately. And not to get angry when my mate in my mini league has captained someone crazy and it pays off. Also, never transfer in Benteke is his New Year's resolution. I wonder who he's so angry about there. The 12th man, take more hits in contrast. Koki Smurf, avoid premium forwards. HMC, definitely less attention to price changes, and also don't go chasing double game weekers for the sake of it. Just one more thing, he has an avatar of Colombo. That's why he saw just one more thing. Stop allowing my FPL game week performance to affect my viewing of football. It can pretty much gauge your season. How many times you decide you cannot face watching something like Match of the Day. And Andy Dixon, so I'm to keep reading all these out. People saying, "Oh, Joe's going on." I'm just reading out what the community is saying. So, Seb, did you want to say something? Sorry, you looked sort of pensive.
Oh no,
that's fine.
I was laughing sympathetically. Joe going on. We love you.
No, it's fine. I'm gonna ask for both of you in a second. So after these ones, just a couple more left. So Andy Dixon, stop making early transfers, he said, to avoid being priced out. I know it's almost always ends in tears. The gaffer, his New Year's resolution: care much less about FPL. Spend more time with the wife and kids. Craig, think less about FPL during the week. Mental capacity to focus on life, much more important. I will come back to those last two when I give my resolutions. But Seb first. Let's go for you.
Oh, goodness. Okay, so I had a few. I think like a more general one, I'll revisit when you talk about yours. But for something specific I was thinking about recently, which I'm sure some people already play like this, so you're way ahead of me. But treating every transfer, no matter whether it's a hit or a free transfer, as if it costs you 4 points. No, I don't think that necessarily means make more or fewer transfers. I'm not saying if they all cost you 4 points, you should never make a transfer. But if you treat them like they're all costing you 4 points, I think you'll deploy them quite differently. Be that, valuing them more or saving them and using them all at once, or when you do take hits, at least being more deliberate about it. And even though when we do use a free transfer, yes, it doesn't cost us points, the opportunity cost, of course, of getting another player is there. And also, and this seems relevant at the moment, the sort of making transfers, free transfers, taking hits, whatever, to fix the team for 1 week, only to then to have to reverse that the following week, either through, happenstance like matches being called off or because we haven't planned carefully, can actually end up costing us points in the long term. And so, like I say, if you value every transfer at 4 points, I think you may give a little more consideration to what you do with those transfers and maybe don't end up transferring yourself into a problem later.
Yes, well, I completely agree with that because that's what's happened to me over Christmas. I usually take my average of hits a season is somewhere between 6 and 8. So it's usually around 7. And often those hits are for a double game week player who I actually want. So the hit, the -4, becomes a plus whatever, hopefully. But this, in the last 3 weeks, last week I think it's been, like the last 3 game weeks, I've already taken 5 hits. and because you're having to react so quickly at the moment and there's postponements happening, and if it was normal, if we were normal circumstances, I might get away with those 5 hits in a short space of time. And they could have been long-term planning. But, for example, someone might have got Watkins in. I think I got Watkins in. And then he hasn't got a game. So then you maybe transfer him out, and so on. But then maybe you want him back. Aston Villa do have potentially a very good double game week coming up in game week 21, 22 maybe. So you probably might want him back. Therefore, it could have cost you -8 for that. So I completely agree, Seb. What do you think, Andy? How many hits do you usually take?
Usually, I don't take many hits at all. So I am quite a hits-averse kind of manager. And I do kind of look at it the exact same way Seb said, is that I am so against getting rid of playing players. I don't like doing that whole get rid of that player because that player can haul any week for you. So I'm always kind of against it. But this year, I have been very different to that, especially over Christmas now, because you're getting rid of players that are potentially not playing at all, and then it does feel like more of a -2, and it doesn't take quite as much for that other player to kind of get the points back for you. It's all about circumstances, really, isn't it? If you're looking at a blank game week and you've only got 9 players and you can get a player in for a -4 to make it 11 players, then I think it can be worth it. We know roughly which teams are going to be having these postponed fixtures and things, so I think it's a little bit easier. But I will say, I've seen people in the community, some people are taking like -8s, -12s. I think that's going too far then. I think, Joe, I can kind of understand why you did the free hit, because you were getting to the point where it was like just unraveling, and I can understand that.
I think often, if you were to be trained counsellors here, often I like in life, I like that sort of, not quite a revolution, but I like those moments where you just go, right, enough is enough. Let's stop that. Let's change that quickly. And that could be anything in life. So, I don't know, moving house or whatever, big decisions in life, and that can be. And I quite like those to sort of wipe the slate clean. And for me, that free hit was a very, cathartic moment, relaxing moment. I just felt better for it, and it's gone, it's done, and I'm just not gonna get into that mess again.
The only thing I will say is taking those hits, like, it's really appropriate that it's called a hit, because obviously that week your team might take a hit, but of course it can pay off in the future. And if you're making those moves to actually think, yes, I'm building my team for the future, you might take a hit that week, but it might do you well as the weeks go on, if that makes sense. So I think as long as you're using them properly, they can be good. But I think sometimes people just use them because they're there and they want to use them.
I think that's exactly it, and that's astute. It's not like, I'm absolutely not saying don't take hits. In fact, at this time of year, take loads. It probably does work. It's more about the psychology and the decision making behind taking hits, and then even using free transfers. If every transfer cost us -4, or like, in the Sky game where you have a limited number of transfers, you probably approach them differently. I think the fact that we get a free transfer that you can store but only store once, and then anything subsequent costs -4, sets us up to think about them in a very specific way that isn't actually reflective of reality. So I'm not saying take hits, and I'm not saying don't take hits. I'm saying value every transfer at 4 points and see where that leads you with your decision making.
The Sky analogies is a good one. I also play Sky ads, and I have made no transfers. So out of all of this chaos, however players I've got that aren't playing, I haven't done any transfers. I've just kept faith in what I've got, and then I'll just see myself through it. Because there's limited transfers, there's only 40 a season. So each one, I suppose, is what Seb's saying. They're precious. They're like a tiny child. They're like Baby Yoda in the Mandalorian. You just want to nurture them and look after them and keep them safe from the evil remnants of the Empire. But and that's what the way the transfers are. And as a result, in Sky, I have just gone up slightly, but I haven't dipped at all. I haven't moved down, and I've kept the ship steady, and I've got more transfers than a lot of other people around me. And that's the upshot of it is FPL. It's a massive car crash. So yeah. Andy.
Yes.
There's resolutions.
Yeah. So do you know what? It's actually after Seb started talking, I've realised my New Year's resolution is maybe a little bit different to his, because mine is so mine is to not plan quite as much as we are used to, because things are just changing literally every week, and we're getting information so late at the moment. And I think there are a lot of people out there that are planning, they're getting their ideas on paper, they've got a great plan, they feel great after it, and then things change so quickly. When we did our Scoutcast with Lynn, the last one we did, we had all these plans. We said, this is the way you can play it. And then literally the next day we got a free hit. And you think there's all these plans that we want to try and make. And I think sometimes, and I know, Joe, you've alluded to this, I think it was at the beginning of the year, saying you've always got to try and play that game week in front of you as well. It's not always about the plan, and it's trying to play that game week in front of you. And I've done that quite a lot over Christmas. I've kind of looked at it and said, look, this team's playing a ravaged team. You know, COVID's ruined them. Norwich in particular, you know.
Yeah.
I think it is okay. You can still get those points back to then build up later on. So, for instance, I had Triple Arsenal in my team. They then got a blank against Leeds, but they got me enough points in that game against Norwich that it was okay having them. And I think sometimes it's okay at the moment not to plan too much. Have an idea in your head and be very, very fluid with it, but don't worry about planning too much. Just think, these are the players I roughly want to have moving forward, and I'll go for some other players weekly as well. And I think that's an okay way to play.
Exactly. I mean, I look at players like Gallagher, for example. It was him that was the final straw for me to free hit, because I thought, well, at least I've got the likes, you know, like when you sit there with Bowen in your team, you think, oh, you could get something, and you get Gallagher, oh, he could get a double, you know, against Norwich, and then it's like, and then the rumours were coming out, he's got COVID, and they were looking more and more credible. More and more credible sources were saying it. And I thought, oh, I haven't even got Gallagher. And but he's exactly the kind of player that if you've got, you know, you shouldn't around planning, you've got to have a backup. So say if you got Gallagher and you want to keep him, then you put him on the bench, or you're facing that decision that game week. Do you transfer him out? But at least you've got a decision to make. But you've got to do it quickly. You can't plan for that. You can't say a month ago, I'm going to remove Gallagher before he plays Norwich. But you might do.
Yeah, it's all about that short-term planning at the moment, isn't it? And it's so hard because things happen so quickly at the moment. And I'm not completely understanding the COVID rules at times with why games get postponed and why games don't. So it's incredibly hard to plan for those blanks. But I think, like I said, in terms of just get players in, I really am kind of targeting those teams where they're playing against a team that is just ravaged with injury. You know, teams like Leeds, unfortunately, Seb and Norwich and teams like that, you think it's very easy for those teams to get a lot of goals against them, and it's good to captain those kind of players. But obviously sometimes it doesn't work. Look at Leicester and Liverpool this week. But I think you can have a little bit more of a short-term vision this year, at least at the moment, because the games are so quick and because there's so much going on.
I was imagining it like a David Attenborough as you were saying that, like narrating you're on the plains, and like you've caught sight of a wounded gazelle, and he's gone and he's going to pounce at him, and there's like a wounded Norwich It's like you want to go for them. I think it's very valid. Yeah.
Was it Boxing Day, wasn't it? Boxing Day, the scores were just ridiculous, weren't they? Like City against Leicester 6-3, Arsenal against Norwich 5-0, and we knew beforehand that those teams were in dire straits, and we were all saying, "Cool, this could be a cricket score," and obviously it comes out and it is. And obviously I had Saka, but people also, I can't remember who scored for City in that game, but I think it is worth having a look at those kind of games because their captaincy choices can be made in them.
Yeah, definitely. My one is it's sort of linked in with hits, but not quite that. And basically, it's to remember what sort of manager I am. And I am not a hit-taking manager. I am a risk-averse manager. I'm a planning type manager, which is very difficult in a time where you can't plan. So that's why I'm thrown by this. How can I plan when it's unplannable? So what I'm looking to do is just to minimise FPL. When I've been in these situations before, when you feel like the game is escaping you a little bit, it's like the way you play it. It's not enjoyable. It just doesn't seem to fit the way you like to play the game. And so when you're doing that, you're thinking about it a lot. So Boxing Day morning, I was making all these transfers and then free hitting. That was a long time. It was a long time of my life was spent on those decisions, which didn't really work out either. And so it's very annoying to that. So my plan, my New Year's resolution, is to minimise FPL in my life a bit. Obviously, I still do these things. Obviously, I still have a team. So I've been doing things like I don't have Twitter on my phone anymore. I'm not looking at that thing. I will look at the BBC or whatever to look at if I'm not watching or listening to the game to get a idea of what's happening or my own team. But I'm not constantly looking at seeing where everyone else is and seeing what everyone else's opinions are on it. I'm just keeping it to a minimum. So Twitter, gone from my phone. Still on my computer, but not on my phone. So I've not got it in my hand. Mini leagues. I have kept the mini leagues I can't really leave. So the charity ones, and I've kept, and I'll tell you why Andy's smiling in a minute. And the charity ones, the one when I first started playing FPL, and some of the Elite 64 ones. I don't really want to. I don't mind being, if I'm kicked out of the Elite 64, so be it. But if I'm not going to voluntarily leave that, so. That has unfortunately included the Fantasy Football Scout Moderators and Contributors League. And Andy does have a theory about why I have left that, though, which isn't to do with me minimising it.
It's probably just a coincidence. Like it probably is, but for some reason I've now gone above Joe and he's left the league. Literally,
I couldn't bear the shame.
A coincidence. People in the chat, don't have a go at him. It's probably just a massive, massive coincidence.
No. When I leave the house, that's what they shout at me. They shout at me, "Boy, you're that bloke that Andy's doing slightly better than." And I go, "Yeah, that's."
I know where you live, Joe. Yeah, I've got my family all to stand outside your house chucking tomatoes.
All across Somerset. This is what the town criers are doing it. But yeah, so that's right. But the reason that is not because I suddenly thought, "Oh my God, Andy's doing better than me," and so I'm going to leave. It's just minimising it all. It's minimising looking at everyone else's team, looking at all the different teams. So I've got very few teams I can look at now, really, unless I'm really desperately trying to find their numbers and things and their IDs. And I'm not just minimising it all. And I'm just above 100k, so I'm like not doing like dramatically badly. I just feel at the moment for what I could be doing, I'm not doing it. But I've been like 2 million at this time of year before. And I didn't take these minutes. It's just specific around here. But one of the main things is going back to those points that the gaffer was making. Spend more time with your wife and kids. Craig, think less about FPL. Mental capacity to focus on life, much more important. I'm spending hours, not doing the research for these types of things, but my own team. I'm looking at my phone. Do my kids want to talk to me? Yes, of course they want to talk to me. But is Dad always on his phone? Looking at his phone going, "Oh, has Conor Gallagher got an assist?" And then I look back at that and think, what have I become? And I think other people might think that as well. They might resonate that. So anyway.
I think over Christmas myself, obviously I've been busier with Christmas stuff as everyone has. And obviously it's our first Christmas with a new baby. I had one very, very good game week with Cancelo. captained him, but then went on a walk. And I was like, I just don't want to experience this in real time because it's going to feel pretty bad if they concede in the first minute or if I'm just waiting for them not to concede. And then on the flip side as well, I had a very, very bad game week on Boxing Day. We went over to my parents for lunch and all of that. And I think the Boxing Day one probably helped that I'd done well with the previous week as well, because it felt like, oh, well, I've done well, now I can do badly, fine. But realistically, that just doesn't matter, just because those weeks were consecutive. But being away from it kind of, I guess, minimized the time I had, either, the joyous or the bad feelings about it, as opposed to trying to experience it in real time. Now, I know that's not practical throughout the whole season, and a lot of us play FPL, to actually enjoy football. It's a marketing tool for engagement in the Premier League. But I guess maybe my takeaway, which is similar to yours, would be try and manage that, minimize it.
Exactly.
And maybe if you know you're going to have a bad week, or you are making a decision like Cancelo captain, maybe that is the time to go on a walk or do something else, because however it goes, experiencing it in real time probably has a deeper effect.
But it's the
on
same.
your psychology.
It's the same principle. If you're having a really great game week, or if you're, doing exceptionally well, it's the same principle. It's like, I'm spending too much time on this when I should be doing it other things. And I think a lot of the comments I've been reading on Twitter and the Fantasy Football Scout forum, and indeed from posters when we asked them, for example, like the Gaffer here with his New Year resolution, and it's the same theme arising, whether they're doing good or bad. It's just like, I think it's because of Christmas, because we're not at work. A lot of people look at FPL when, on their computer while they work, or their phone, with their work, they just like, they're doing that, just distraction there. But when it becomes when you should be spending the time with the family, and you are, but you're slightly distracted. I mean, I know Mark talks about it a lot in his preambles, and he talks about has to go to the garden centre if he's having or he wants to avoid a game week, because or it's a boring match, because he doesn't have to think about it. But other things as well. I think he's made jokes about, it's all jokes, but they have a sentiment of truth in them around, around the family meal. Everyone's thinking about this, but I'm just sitting there thinking, oh, have I made the right move taking that defender out, and that kind of thing. And I just think good or bad, I think we could all enjoy FPL more by having slightly less FPL in our lives. But I don't know whether that's overall my New Year's resolution.
I do think, just to add as well, that it is an individual thing. So obviously we, both me and you have sat here and gone, oh, a bit less, spend time with families, blah, blah, blah. That's obviously a potentially privileged position we're in to be able to say that. Whether people's personal situations are different or what have you, but also people's relationship with FPL is different. It'll affect some people more or less. Some people, it may very well be an escape that they enjoy throwing themselves into. So I think it's important to recognize your own individual situation and take actions according to that. But if anything, and this is inside FPL itself, is just to try and take as chill approach as you can. So not just with involving FPL in your life, but the decision making in FPL as well. We so often see that the worst decisions we make are the ones that we react quickly to and make, in a moment of passion. Often, and I don't just mean, me and you recently, Joe, with transfers, but generally, often if you're not sure what to do, or if you feel you're making rash decisions, just chilling and not making one will work out, especially in a game where you can bank transfers and things like that.
Definitely. And that's why when we saw your teams, when we had our teams recap of Game Week 20, when you saw no transfers that you'd made, I just thought, I just should have done that like weeks ago. And it would have saved so much more time, really. And
just on it as well, I think for me, FPL's never been the problem. My problem's always been Twitter. Like my problem, that's where you can get really immersed into. And I've said it to you before. I think it was on our first Scoutcast, is that I had really good finishes in FPL until I joined Twitter. And then my first 2 years on Twitter, I was awful. I finished 250k, 125k, and I hadn't finished outside 100k for 4 years before that. And I was looking at it and thinking, why was that? And I think I've finally nailed it this year in terms of, I haven't taken myself away from everything. I've just tried. It's taken me 2 years to learn how to manage all that content. And I think it's like one of those curves in terms of you can have no content and be okay. Then you get a bit of content and you get better. And then you can have too much content and get worse again. and I feel like it's trying to narrow down how much content you have, and
Yeah.
I try not to listen to too many different opinions. The mute button, I know Joe will swear by it as well. I've muted quite a lot of big accounts because they're so extreme in their views. They're very, this is the right way to do it. And I kind of need them out of my timeline because I'm like, I can't have that in my head all the time. I now know that about myself that I can't. And I find that a way bigger distraction than FPL. FPL, I can take it and leave it and bring it up for 5 minutes and it's fine. But Twitter's what I get lost in. And I feel that content is what can really harm you as a manager as well.
Yeah, I follow about 300 people, which is a small percentage of people that follow me. But and that changes each season as well, and it's what the point Andy made as well. Some big accounts because it's a way of playing that perhaps I can learn from, but it's a distraction. And from me, it's like I don't enjoy playing the game that particular way, so it's just more views. And also, one of the things that's been going on this week, this may be to do with Christmas, but so something we haven't mentioned was that the site went down 5 minutes before people were making moves, and a lot of people were free hitting then, and it sort of didn't go through, and they'd had hits and they were unsure. And anyway, it was once again what I was talking about. This is Christmas time. They shouldn't be having to worry about these things, but they are. And the amount of abuse some people were getting. Some people were saying, "Oh, I wish I was trying to free hit and I couldn't." Really, and then they were just getting abused. And so people like I saw some comments from say Adam Hopcroft, who's appeared on Meet the Manager. He was saying he's had to mute and block people, and he never used to, because he was getting abused over that, over people being cruel about that. And I just thought, not only is it Christmas, but it's just like I can that's all the other element of FPL, which in various roles I've had, as a community manager of Fantasy Football Scout, you have to deal with some of that abuse. But then I just think, why do you have to deal? Why do you have to deal with people who are just atrocious?
And do you know, it doesn't have to be toxic accounts. Like it doesn't. For instance, and you won't mind me saying, I muted Luke Disable because he was putting stuff on the timeline, things like, why not triple Captain Bale? And why not Captain, I don't know, Solano? And I'm like, no, I don't want to see that.
Just to you or just in general to everyone?
No, just in general to everybody. And it's like, I still chat to him in DMs, but I'm like, I just can't have it. If it enters my head, it's like Inception, isn't it? It's like, it's nothing worse than an idea. And it's just, I can't see it. If I see it, then I start thinking, oh, that could be a good idea. And my whole thing this year, my whole mantra has been keep it simple. Like there's a reason why your first instinct is to do something. It's when you start creeping away from it that it can all go wrong. Yeah.
I look back on, there was a decision that I could have made this week, a couple of weeks ago. It was a really simple one. It was one hit, and it involved it involved getting Jorginho in and Ronaldo. And I know it's that kind of thing of like, it's what you do, what you didn't do, and that kind of thing. But the point is, I was having a chat, I think it was with Gianni and I can't remember who else. It was Anorak, who used to do the suspension tightrope on Fantasy Football Scout. And I was saying I don't think I could have afforded, can't remember who I couldn't afford, but it was Jorginho I was looking at because he's on penalties for Chelsea, so you never know. And it happened to be that week that he gets 2 penalties, and obviously I didn't get him in. But it's just moves like that. That was my first instinct, just to go with a massively dullard pick, a guy on penalties for a good team. He's all I can afford. It enables me to get, I can't remember who it was, Ronaldo, whoever, in as well. And I just, so that's what I'm going to do now, just stick more the instinct. But yeah, cutting down the noise is a good point, Andy.
And I think the important thing here as well is it's not necessarily, as Andy said, about just blocking toxic people or whatever. The other way some people will deal with FPL, or the way they'll enjoy it and engage with it, is shouting on Twitter about it, commenting on everything or what have you. And that's absolutely fine, because that may well be literally what causes them to have a better experience with it. But if it doesn't for Andy, that's fine. Those two things can coexist. Andy doesn't have to listen, but they can still put it out there. As Andy said, that's why the mute button exists. I mean, I think that comes back to what we were saying with this is all personal. There is no one rule that suits everyone. For myself, and as people know, I enjoy looking at the statistical side of this. I enjoy maybe looking into the psychology and trying to make decisions with that in mind. The reason I do that is because I know myself, I'm actually quite quick to make a rash decision. I often act on emotions first, which is fine. That's me. That's cool. But that might mean that I'm tempted to make a rage transfer or do something because it was shouted loudly on Twitter or whatever. So to try and counteract that, I throw myself into what I guess is maybe the opposite of that, which is, the statistical side, or, recognizing that I have cognitive biases and I can't get rid of those, but trying to act alongside them, in harmony with them, as opposed to being controlled by them or whatever. And that might not work for someone else, just like Andy's Twitter methodology might not work for someone else. And that's fine. I think it's about finding what works for you and working with that, not against it.
Definitely. And another tip I have that people might like, with if they are on Twitter a lot and they want to sort of cut down the noise, is add a bit more noise, but not the sort of noise that is unhelpful. So adding noise. So for example, I follow lots of comedians. I follow lots of people who are just interesting in general. They just seem to post really interesting things, their pictures or whatever, and it's just really whatever they're posting. It brings a bit of joy into the day. And there is a lot of very negative posts out there. I also have a look at posts and think I tend to mute people who constantly say the words not or don't, or just a negative in general about comments about everyone, and more and a less positive. And instead of going so and so didn't score or did score, think of it in a much more positive way about their own player, like I'm pleased that I made that decision, or just to be a bit more positive. It's quite hard for me. I'm just speaking off the cuff here, but it's quite hard to put into words. I can't find a specific example, but I think everyone who looks at forums and is on Twitter will probably know the sort of poster I'm talking about there. There are very positive ones and there are also very negative ones. And if they're just negative all the time, it just can bring you down a bit, really. Just think, but if they're positive all the time, it's quite happy. I remember David was talking about it, about when he was editor of Fantasy Football Scout. He was talking about a lot of the posts, how it was important to try and turn a negative into a positive, and not in a sort of cheesy way of always see the bright side of things, but just simply in your posting, instead of saying so and so didn't score, talk about the player that did score, or have something positive around that. So and so didn't score because of. Just turn everything into something positive and useful and entertaining, and it's those types of people I like to listen to. And read their comments on Twitter. But anyway, that's just me.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, being kind is the thing, isn't it?
Be kind.
I think when I'm on Twitter, I'm often quite sarcastic, but I guess because that satisfies me, and I hopefully do it in a non-insulting way. But ultimately, it's about being kind. And if you do post something that, on reflection, was a bad idea, that's cool. Own up to it and say my bad. We all do that all the time.
No one's. I'm not perfect. No one is, and so there are times when I'll make a comment and then afterwards I'll just go, that was you could do better than that, and I feel a bit embarrassed or a bit, and so just turn off Twitter, and I think there's probably a lot of people who maybe make comments to that. But anyway, Christmas, New Year, time to think again. Should we move on? Now, I'm not doing next 4 game weeks, but I'm doing game week 22 onwards. But I will show game week 21. Probably part of the reasons is we don't fully know what's in 21 yet. We don't know whether there's going to be double game weeks here. And I'm quite conscious, I don't want to date the Scoutcast. So I don't want this to be out of date in an hour because when the double game week starts. So we're looking in general from game week 22, 23, 24, 25 onwards. There are extra fixtures to put in here, so you can probably safely say there's going to be a whole bunch of extra fixtures in game week 22. We don't know which ones they're going to be. If you're watching this by the time you do find out, just mentally add them in. But these in general are the teams so far that would be good to invest in terms of the fixtures, and that's Everton, Liverpool, Newcastle, Watford, Manchester United, Manchester City. And then the teams that are probably less good, favourable to invest in, barring any double game weeks, which could only be, one game week, one double game week, and then they've got rubbish fixtures elsewhere. So, for example, Southampton, they got Wolves in Gameweek 22. Then they've got City, Tottenham and Manchester United. So I've got Livramento, and if he's got a double game week in 21 or 22, I'll keep him. And then he's gone. I wouldn't be looking to get Livramento in, for example. Burnley, my man Chris Wood. Got Leicester, Arsenal, Manchester United and Liverpool. Pretty much, I don't know, they've got almost like a whole season to fit in, Burnley, in there somewhere. But and Chelsea, they've got no fixtures for 24-25 Club World Cup, or Tottenham and Manchester City as well. So yeah. So anyway, yeah. What do you think about the fixtures? How are you looking at them? Bearing in mind we don't know the doubles at the moment, but just in general.
I know Everton are right at the top there. I know a lot of people are waiting for Calvert-Lewin to come back in, because I think everybody's just screaming out for that mid-price striker that's actually going to do well. Any striker that's really going to do anything, to be honest. They've got Norwich up next, which obviously helps, and the fixtures are kind. I'd need to see Calvert-Lewin play a bit, because Everton are just all over the place, really, aren't they? I think I'd probably target one of their cheaper midfielders like Decore or Gray rather than taking a hit on DCL yet. But it is worth putting them on your watch list at least. Liverpool's going to be the interesting one for me. I obviously with AFCON coming up, and they're going to be losing Salah, losing Mane. It's going to be interesting to see how they get on. Whether it's going to really affect them, whether people are going to go for double defence and get TA and Robertson, whether people are going to change at all, whether they're going to just bench Salah. So I think that's a really interesting one, because those fixtures are still lovely as well, and they do have a double most probably. So I think those are the two I'm looking at the most, both those Merseyside teams. But yeah, I think Calvert-Lewin's worth putting on your watch list, but I'm not sure I'm ready to take a gamble straight away, even though they do have a lovely Game Week 22 fixture. Yeah,
I mean, Calvert-Lewin's an interesting one, isn't he? Because my instinct is to get him in because I look at the rest of the fixtures, and if he has double game weeks, this is an added extra. But yeah, there is that sense. He has. I think he's been come back from injury twice now, and then not in recent. It seems to have been that way. Maybe it was just once. But I remember they at least tried to play him. I think there was one game where he had some problem with his knee, and he played the Brighton game, I think, and I think he scored, but out again thereafter. So it's a tricky one there. I've got some. So it's very more chatty, less statty, but I've got some stats here. This is the last 4 matches in the absence of the captaincy video. This is the last 4 matches, the so-called whipping boys. So this is the last 4 matches they played, not game weeks. And this shows that the defences to target, these are the ones that the lion-like Andy is racing across the plains to attack and mutilate for the benefit of a BBC documentary.
There's that little weak gazelle at the top there. What's it?
Yeah.
Leeds.
Leeds. Oh. Yeah, there they are. Yeah, yeah. Leeds are the weakest of them all. They're like a tiny.
Run to the pack.
They're like a tiny injured kitten, and for you, that's just that's dinner.
I mean, I don't know if you're hoping for a reaction, but it's pretty much true. So,
yeah. So, and then the next gazelle, injured gazelle, is Newcastle. Their defence well worth targeting. Now Leicester are third, but if they can keep a clean sheet against Liverpool, then I don't know whether that is a whipping boy. That's probably far from it.
I would just say the reason they kept a clean sheet against Liverpool was not of their own making. No. They tried very hard not to.
And I think target them, but you can still own their attacking assets. I think they can score goals, but they just cannot defend at all.
Yeah, that's fair.
So their expected goals conceded. By the way, I've sorted this by expected goals conceded. Those listening on the podcast. So Leeds were expected to have conceded all over 9 goals. They conceded 16, so they're marginally unlucky there. Newcastle, they've conceded 12. They should have conceded a bit more than 9 or 10. And Leicester should have conceded 9 and have in fact conceded 8. So they're sort of they're sort of on a par for what they should be doing really. Everton similar as well, should have conceded a bit over 8. And
by the way, looking at that table, look at Wolves. Like that's why Sarr has been such a good asset this year. So, like they're
Wolves,
top half in terms of XG conceded, but they've only conceded 2 goals. Like that's what you want from a goalkeeper. Lots of XG conceded, but no goals conceded. Like that's lovely.
That is incredible, isn't it? Wolves, should have conceded 8. They've actually conceded 2. Now, this is pertinent because if we look at the fixtures for this week, Manchester United play Wolves. Ronaldo could be a good captaincy shout. If Manchester United have a double game week, they could be. If Ronaldo gets booking tonight against Burnley, it's worth pointing out he will be banned from this from this Wolves game because he's currently on 4 yellows, and I think that runs out after the Wolves game. But people in the chat may want to correct me on that.
Yeah, it's. I think they clarified it was after the 19th match. Obviously, whenever that comes, because fixtures are all over the place now.
So it's just a question of working out how many they've actually played.
Yeah, their 19th match. Yeah.
Okay.
I think so. Yeah. Please, obviously, go fact check me on that. But I think that's
is this Burnley match their 19th match then? Or
I can have a quick look for you, mate. I think that one's 17 at the moment.
Oh, okay. Right, yeah, okay. So he could get banned any minute then.
Man United have played 17, so 18 is tonight.
But it's also worth mentioning there because of what Andy was pointing out. Wolves are not going to be giving it up too many chances, and Manchester United, I'm still unsure. I've got Ronaldo. I'm okay with that at the moment, but I don't know. I mean, I don't know whether I fully trust Ronaldo with the armband.
They just looked so bad, didn't they?
Yeah.
Yep. I mean, like you said, less statty, more chatty. I don't even know what the stats for that match, but watching it, that was just so poor.
Yeah.
In a double game week, I can understand it, but in single game weeks at the moment, I trust Son a lot more than I do Ronaldo.
Oh yeah.
Definitely. So further down the list, we can see Chelsea. A lot of people going off the Chelsea defence. They're not conceding a lot, but they are conceding. So just 1 clean sheet in the last 4. And the mighty Brighton, obviously you can't keep the mighty Brighton out. They've conceded 3 goals there. But Arsenal are the good ones. So I've got Ramsdale, and I'm going to keep him. He's playing City next, but I'm just going to keep him because they're so low down there in terms of goals conceded. And even when they're against a team like Manchester City, Ramsdale, he's got the save points as well. So, a good one to keep. Manchester City. So, Seb, you've got Cancelo and Ederson, I think.
Yeah.
Wise move. Tottenham. Reguilon is one of the players I got in over Christmas, and I'm quite happy about that. That's a decision I'm pleased with. Because it's evident that Spurs' defence is well worth investing in. They've got
worth noting he's in. I don't know how bad the injury is, but he went off injured, didn't he? I believe.
Yeah, so hopefully it's not too bad. But if he's out for a week, I mean, almost anyone could be out for a week at the moment. So if it's long term, like it looks like James is for Chelsea, if it's longer term, then obviously it has to be removed. But the principle remains. Tottenham defence, get in there. Brighton, Liverpool, down there as well. So those with Sanchez, Lamptey, keep them. Don't move them on. These are good assets to have, I think.
Sure. I think obviously the thing to say with this always is, it is opponent dependent as well. So Arsenal, for example, may not be doing as well if they played some tougher attacks like they had earlier in the year. But the one thing I do like about this table is I think when we're looking at XG, it's sometimes better in this context than, say, in a scoring context or an attacking context. Because, as we discuss all the time, someone like Harry Kane, XG, well, do we expect him to overperform it? Therefore, should we actually expect a bit more than the number? When we're looking at it in reverse with a team conceding XG, well, the strikers they play change every week. So the average, which is what an XG number is actually a lot more relevant and probably more useful for shorter term predictions, with, of course, the fixtures taken into account.
It's just been reminded in the live chat, actually. I was watching the Spurs game with Reguilon when he came off, and my instinct was that he'd come off because he had a yellow, and he didn't. And
okay. Cool.
And so, I haven't heard anything about an injury. What you just said there was the first I'd heard of that. So
no, cool. Well, no, thank you for the correction. Yeah, I think I just assumed. So fair enough.
I think it was because he was on a yellow and it was looking like he might get a red.
I've already mentioned it once as well, by the way. It's worth mentioning that the teams at the top of XG conceded over this Christmas period, last 4 matches is only 2 weeks or 2-3 weeks, whatever it is.
This is the last 4 matches they played.
Yeah, and these are the teams that primarily have been ravaged by COVID and injuries as well. Like Leeds, there's a reason they're at the top. They're not normally quite this bad. But you know,
we're bad, but
yeah, these smaller teams, like they are getting hit by FPL, by Premier League, by saying no, I'm sorry, you're going to have to play. You know, Leeds, Norwich, Everton, you know, all those teams, they're being told they have to play, and they're getting absolutely demolished when they're playing at the moment. So the fixture congestion isn't going to change, and COVID's still rife. So it's worth saying that this is why maybe those XGs are, XG conceded is happening. So it can be a tactic targeted, like we said about it already.
Right. We before we come to some quickfire questions, I've just got a few more bits and bobs to rattle through here. This is just one last stat table. Last 4 matches, non-penalty XG, expected goals. So I've stripped away the Salahs and the such likes. Because just a bit of a change. I don't usually look at non-penalty XG, but a bit of a change here because it shows, interestingly, Jota's still top. So he probably would have been my captain if I'd have left my team as it was for this week. Instead of captaining Salah, I would have captained Jota, I think, just because he had the stats and I thought the Leicester defence was there for the taking. Cavani, he was the one that got away on my free hit. And I tried all I could, and I just couldn't do it whilst having... It would have meant something like Foden going, or something ridiculous. I just couldn't do it. So Antonio was the furthest I could stretch up to. So I don't mind that. But I think those who've got Cavani tonight, if he's playing, I think he could do well. Sterling, those who've got Sterling in, doing really well. The odd benching, but great. Kane is starting to shoot up this table. He was never on this. So this is non-penalty XG, bearing in mind Kane's on penalties. He's scored 3 goals, expected to have scored just over 2. Obviously, he's got penalties as well. Martinelli, Ronaldo, Salah, Bamford, should he ever come back, Lacazette, Werner, Watkins, Son. These are. I think if you've got any of these, if you've got a whole bunch of these players, I don't think any of them are worth removing unless they're injured or definitely looking like they're out of favour. So, like I've got Martinelli. I'm going to keep him. I don't care if he's got City.
Are these the players' last 4 games? Because like Cavani up there with 2. Yeah, so Cavani's might have been stretched across 4 months.
Exactly. Right. But we don't have much to go on with Cavani.
Yeah.
So he looked great the last game. And he's always looked good every time he's on. He's just never on the pitch. But
the team look better with him there. Yeah. They just can't get a formation where they can play both of them up top, basically.
Yeah, I think it's very likely he'll play against Burnley on his just because
instead of Ronaldo. Instead of Ronaldo would be lovely.
It could be instead of Ronaldo. I think he would serve a better purpose.
He would. We're better with him, but there you go. That's another segue.
Yeah. So he's an interesting one, and I think an interesting differential going forward. Even if he's just a sub, he's a great impact sub. He seems to fit in with the new Manchester United because a lot of the players are the old Manchester United, so we're not really seeing what they are. But Cavani seems to fit in with that model there. And a quick look at the community team. Now, I'm going to... Sorry to Alex's team. I've been trying to do as best as I can with this. So this is the team we've ended up with. This is going into Gameweek 21. Difficult over Christmas. I've sort of not making transfers 1 week, then 2 the next week. And so the last transfers I made weren't last week, they were the week before. And it was for Davis and Bowen. So they've actually worked out quite well, those particular transfers. But I've got 2 frees. We've got 2 frees coming up for Gameweek 21. We're down to just over 300k now. So we really want to be moving up there. Zaha I was going to remove last week, but I couldn't get around to it. But could have a double game week, Crystal Palace. And Zaha, quite good. Don't know. But anyway, I think, for me personally, weakest links, James, Pookie, they're the ones to remove, I think.
I think so. Especially with the double game weeks and stuff coming up. I think the rest of them are going to be fine, aren't they?
Yeah.
How high can we go with Pookie if we remove James to effectively, bench fodder 4.0, something like that?
We've only got 0.4 left, so Pookie's like 5.9 or something, so 6.3. So we could go up to about 8. We could get, or we don't have Watkins, for example.
So Watkins, DCL, Antonio, mid-price strikers isn't bad.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Could downgrade James as well now, couldn't you?
Yeah. James and Pookie to I don't know, someone like. Well, I mean, I got a Brighton defender. See what we can get.
I mean, realistically, we'd probably end up benching them. I know we want them to play, but Target is playing at the moment. But even if he didn't, we'd then be playing whoever replaced Pookie most of the time.
Yeah.
So in theory, we're looking at what is Williams 3.9, but plays for Norwich. There's Ben Johnson at West Ham. Something like that might be enough.
Yeah. I think the interesting thing about this team is by doing very little, it's emerged ahead of the doubles in really nice form, really. We can easily remove Salah to Son next week and possibly even this week if we wanted to. But I think next week when Salah's off to AFCON, that's a nice Son-shaped tool. We could just make one transfer this week and then save 2 there and use the Salah money elsewhere, spread that around, get Son in. We've got 3 million elsewhere. We could do something like that.
Somebody you could get in defence instead of James is Luke Thomas at Leicester. 4.3 million, got double game weeks coming up.
Yeah.
But they are one of the whipping boys. So
they are at the moment. So we'll
you know what? I'm tempted with my own team. Maybe not as good for this one because you have to wait 1 week, I think at least. Is Robertson, obviously that then provides me with a Jota Salah problem in a few weeks. But when Robertson serves a suspension, which will be after Chelsea, I think, because of the League Cup, I quite fancy their fixtures, as Andy pointed out earlier. I quite fancy that little double up that will be a bit different from what other people have.
Who's going to get you a double-digit return?
Of course, there is just the Salah problem, when he comes back.
Who's going to get a double-digit return? Well, the guy who could get a clean sheet and an assist, a couple of bonus. There it is. Doesn't need to score. Just an assist would do that. I completely agree. I'm looking at James to Robertson, so I might even keep James. Because, nice. Or someone else, but effectively they talk about Sky daisy chaining moves. So essentially James's role in my side will become Robertson. So I might make another. Basically, I have that in mind, really. But yeah, I agree. Yeah, who are the best? Who are the best Liverpool assets to get in? Well, Jota, Alexander-Arnold. I'm sure in a future Scoutcast we're going to mention, and I think it's going to be between Firmino and Robertson for most people. Who's going to be that third one?
And I guess the only thing is Salah could be back just before Burnley, Norwich, give or take. Then they do have a blank. Yeah. But you might want to, if we do make that move, have some sort of plan to get him back, or another industrial size sofa. Yeah,
you definitely need. That's why so I've got Ronaldo in my team and in Alex's team, who we've got Ronaldo, and I don't have Salah. So whilst I've always got like a Ronaldo or someone like that, a Vardy could be, you've still got the money there to downgrade to get a Salah somehow.
It's about the spots as much as the money, though, because I guess you have to lose Jota because you still have 3, or Robertson, of course, if you then get him out again.
Hey, should we try and answer some quick fire questions? Seb, you're going to take the lead on
this. Sure. So the plan, I'm
excited.
This is kind of inspired by what you were doing the other week, Andy. So the plan here for people in the chat is these are questions that have to be answered with one word. So one word only. For example, should I captain Salah? Yes or no? That's all we're going to give you. We are going to give you a chance now to put them in the chat while we go through our teams for next week. I will make a note of them and then I will fire them at Andy and Joe afterwards. So you've got a few minutes to get them in. Ask your questions in the chat now and keep them to things that can be answered with just one word. They don't have to be about FPL, but we don't know about anything else in life. We only know about FPL.
Does it have to be a word? Can it be a noise?
A noise? I mean, yeah, go for it. Go for it. A single word or minimal syllables.
Right. Nice. Okay, let's have a look at our teams then while people just put the questions to us. So here's my one, which hopefully Az has got all the graphics right there. There's a lot of red here, but I don't mind for those players like, say, Ramsdale, Alexander-Arnold and Jota. So I'm going into this with a 4-4-2 so far, with an outrageous bench. So I'm going to make a move, but I don't know what that move's going to be. I've got Ramsdale, Alexander-Arnold, Reguilon, Cancelo, and Livramento if he's fit and if he has a double game week. But he plays Newcastle next, so I'm still happy with that. Jota, Bowen, Foden and Gallagher if he is... I say recover from COVID. He had a positive test, so I don't know what the the protocol are, whether he'll be back in time, whether it was a false positive, I don't know. But if Gallagher is playing, I want him, especially if he has a double game week. Ronaldo, tentatively captain, but I'm very unsure of that. Watkins, if he plays Brentford away, and if Watkins has a double game week, I think he is a great captain this week. On my bench, I've got Steele, Lacazette, Martinelli, and James. Pending double game weeks, I'm looking to avoid a hit. I'm not going to go chasing after the one player I must have, that type of thing. I feel I've got one or two captains there. I will remove probably James to a double game week defender who is yet to be decided upon. But I may, if Ronaldo gets banned for Wolves, I would just do a very simple Ronaldo to Kane. And I may even do that anyway. I don't know. But I'm going to try not to take any hits. Andy, let's have a look at your team.
Yes, please. So I've got my bus team at the moment is Lloris in goal, Rudiger, Cancelo, Alexander-Arnold, then Bernardo, Jota, Son captain, and Bowen, and then I've got Antonio, Watkins, and King up top. So, like I was alluding to before, I haven't actually planned too much because I don't think you really can until you know what's happening. Oh, we've got our ranks on the screen now. Unless you...
cheeky.
I know, like that.
And we've all got green arrows. That's the bit I'm looking at. That was, I think, as did this bit. I didn't see much need to put ranks on. Even though all our ranks are good, 112k is still fine.
Funny that Joe leaving Leeds, not putting the ranks on
just
the screen.
because it's the middle of the game week. It's sort of been tradition. Terrible. If the Scoutcast in the middle of the game week, just don't put the rank on. If it's the end,
fair enough.
But red or green, put it on.
To be honest, I am not against free hitting this week. I feel like I've built up a little bit for Game Week 22 anyway, and I feel like free hitting this week with City playing Arsenal, Liverpool playing Chelsea, I don't think it would be a bad week to free hit, especially if we find out about the double game week. I won't be if we don't find out about it, but I feel like it could be a good week to do it. Obviously, remember, if you free hit this week, you can't free hit next week, but I feel like it wouldn't be that bad of an option because you've got those really big hitters with massive EO playing against each other, so obviously the upside is capped a little bit, so it could be a week to do it, but I'm just going to wait to see what happens. I mean,
with my next free hit, if I'm in Game Week 22 a bit light, then I don't mind using my second free hit then, because the first free hit was given to us for a reason. It's COVID related, so I think it was an apt one, and I think if you used it in 21, I think that'd be fine. But like you, I think a lot of us should be okay in Game Week 22, especially those who've had a bad Christmas because all our players haven't been playing. The other thing is Bernardo catches my eye. He hasn't done very little, and when they play Foden, Gundogan, more money, Sterling, KDB, almost everyone apart from Bernardo is a great option. So what are you thinking with him?
Thing is, it's what we were talking about before. He's playing every game. And he's not my priority every week to get rid of. Like this week, I got James. Unfortunately, he's the one that's going to have to go. And obviously, I wanted to get rid of a Chelsea defender anyway. And I just look at Bernardo and think he's playing every game. He could easily, they're scoring 6-7 goals sometimes a game, and you think he could get the odd assist or goal. So he's staying at the moment. But if I were to wildcard, he'd be straight out. But he's playing, so I'm keeping him at the moment.
Fair enough. Seb, your side. So who have you got? What's your decisions?
So I will run through my team quickly. I have Edison in goal, Alexander-Arnold, Cancelo, Ben Davies, and Dalot at the back. Son currently has the captain's armband with Jota, Foden, and Bowen in the midfield. Ronaldo and vice-captain Watkins up front, which leaves me with a bench of Gunnarsson, James, King, and Gilmore. I have 2 free transfers and a small amount in the bank, like 0.3 or something. I don't know what I'm going to do at the moment. It feels like there's a week in FPL terms till the next deadline, although it's, 2 days. Realistically, James will go. I have 2 free transfers, so I don't want to burn one of those. So even if I just make one move this week and then carry 2 into next week, I do think I'll lose James, but I'm really not certain what for at this stage.
What would you do if Ronaldo gets his 5th yellow tonight?
Might be a nice little move to Kane, although Spurs fixtures aren't quite as lovely anymore. Arsenal next, then Chelsea away, Southampton, although they've got obviously doubles to come as well. Easy one might be Kane, or it's just another part of the James move, so I end up maybe keeping James as a more expensive option like Robertson, although he'd have to be benched for a week, and do Ronaldo to, I don't know, DCL or something like that. I like Everton's fixtures, but I don't want to do what I've maybe done with Ronaldo, which is like their fixtures so much that I've tried to force a player into my team. So we'll see.
I just put up on the screen there, just because you mentioned some fixtures there. Tottenham for Gameweek 22 for the next 4. They have Arsenal, which is Harry Kane time. They also have Chelsea, and then they have Southampton, Wolves. And we mentioned Everton. They've got Norwich, Villa, Newcastle, and Leeds. And one of the reasons we're thinking of Robertson in, because they got Brentford, Crystal Palace, Leicester and Burnley. No clean sheet is guaranteed, but out of that lot, I would say they're going to get three out of 4 would be clean sheets, you would imagine.
Although obviously Robertson does miss. I think I said Chelsea earlier, which is this week, isn't it? I think he might miss. Is it Brentford as well? He does miss the next couple, I believe.
Right.
No, one of them's Carabao Cup, isn't it? So he's back for Brentford, I believe.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Okay, well that's perfect. That's perfect. So yeah, we've had some questions, haven't we, Seb?
We've had so many questions.
Away.
So good. So what I won't be able to do is read out names because y'all were too quick for me. So sorry, I might think of a better way of doing it in future. But what I am going to do is I am going to fire one question at Andy and then one at Joe, and we're going to alternate until we get through them.
What I was going to say is perhaps at the end you could just name check, just very quickly name check, not for each question, but just name check. Thank you to, and then list out.
I will do my best to do that. The way I've done it, I've not taken names down either. So I will do a bit of scoring and I will try and do that, but I'll do better in the future. So first one, we'll start with you, Andy. Now, 1-word answers.
Yep.
Son or Kane captain this week?
Son.
Joe, Lookman or Mora going forwards?
Mora.
Andy, Reguilon or Ben Davies?
Reguilon.
Joe, wildcard now or save for later?
Save.
Andy, cash or target?
Cash.
Joe, perfect one for you. Cody or Sice?
Cody, always Cody.
Yeah, of course. Andy, Loughton, yes or no?
Yes.
Nice. Joe, will Lamptey start consistently going forwards?
Yes.
Oh, nice. Andy, Tillmans or Maddison? Now, Maddison is injured, I believe, so presumably going forwards.
So if both were fit?
Yeah, both were fit.
If both were fit, Maddison.
Cool. Joe, Ronaldo or Kane from now on?
Kane.
Andy, triple Watford?
Yes.
Nice. Joe, Watkins or Antonio?
Watkins.
Okay, Andy, a non-FPL one for you. Portuguese or Brazilian Ronaldo?
I wonder where you were going with that.
Yeah, good point.
That's a Hollywood question.
Yeah, my answer is Brazilian.
Good.
Smooth answer.
Oh no. Joe, what kind of no, never mind. Joe, what animal best represents your FPL season so far?
One of those gazelles that Andy's after.
That's a terrible one-word answer.
Gazelle.
Andy, what about you? What animal best represents your FPL season so far?
Phoenix.
Oh, love it. I'd go for like a mole, just digging away.
A cheesy phoenix. Cheesy answer.
Okay, and then so final one. Both of you answer this one. Should the 2 free hits come back next year, let's assume you get one in each half of the season.
Yes.
No.
Conflict. Love it. Cool.
Can I just say one thing after that one? It's just because I've always said I like all the chips we've got, have them first season, second half of the season. So you got wild card, free hit, bench boost, triple captain, August to December, January to whatever, you get the same again. That's it. That's all. Because people can use them at different times. If you're going to have them, do them like that. So I just wanted to add that in, just because it's something I'm very keen on that.
That wasn't a one-word answer.
No,
I'm
going
to
and it wasn't my question either.
I
just added it in.
Thank you. Did I win?
I mean, yeah, because Brazilian.
Thank you. Brilliant.
Cool. So I'll try and prescribe some names for thank you. Thank you for putting some questions forward for that, everyone. We'll try and do that next time if that's something that's enjoyable. A bit of FPL and a bit of non-FPL is always good fun. We have FF Scout in the chat who asked. We have J Guy, Derupt Das, Blanco19, Aaron C, Chris Fincher, Shin Sakai, Mike Poopy, Mr. Twister, Mr. Tools. We have Blanco19 again. That's greedy. Couple of questions. I think I asked both. Nice. And plenty more people as well who I will get to next time as well, I promise.
Excellent. I think that worked well. Apart from me just writing an essay for one of them, but I'll keep it to one word next time. I'll just say yes or no or something. But yeah, enjoyed that. So I hope everyone has had a nice Christmas. I hope everyone has a great new year. I hope our New Year's resolutions have been helpful and may strike a chord with some people, and they might just offer a little bit of amusement to others. But in the meantime, for the last time in 2021, it's a goodbye from me.
A goodbye and a happy new year from me.
And a goodbye and a happy new year from me.
Goodbye all.